It's really hard to get in.
Poetry, they were actually only on here. They have.
There's no theme, right? There's no theme.
I'm going to forward you an email, okay, Catherine? Because I can't.
Hello to you all. Hello to you all here in Long Valley. As I was saying, it's our second hybrid event, and we're delighted to have you all here. Tonight's event is in honor of the late great Joseph Sweeney, a dear friend to many of us and a long-time friend of Wales, who has contributed so much to this evening, and we're delighted to offer this evening in his honor. And it's great to have members of his family here. Really a pleasure to have you here. So yeah, I'll just explain quickly how the event is going to be run, what the structure of it is. So just in a second here, we're going to start with the 5-word challenge. Taking submissions both from our online contingent and from those in the room. And then following the 5-word challenge, there will be, I think it's 15, is it 15 readers? 14, yeah, so 14 readers are going to read some of Joe Sweeney's work for about 5 minutes each. And following that, that's kind of the main section of the evening, and following that, there's going to be an open mic. I will be taking contributions both from the online contingent and from those of us here this evening. So, for anyone who's not participated in the 5-word challenge before, it is a literary challenge, as the name suggests, whereby we're going to ourselves between those on Zoom and those in the room here. We're going to come up with 5 words that we're then going to take down, and everybody, if all those who would like to partake, will then write a poem or piece of literature containing those 5 words. In about 15, it'll have about 15 minutes to do it, and then afterwards, you can come up here and read your poem, or else you'll be unmuted on Zoom and you can read your poem, and the winner, as decided by both votes and by the clapometer inside this room, will get the very special prize. There's actually 3 books. Saying that usually there's 2, but today there's 3. Twin Skies anthology, the 5-word challenge anthologies, and Joe Sweeney's Tilting at Windmills, as well as a free book or free drink of your choice from the bar. Okay, so we're going to start now, and if you have any suggestions for words that we might use, feel free to shout them out.
Cough from Augustina.
Augustina says cough. Okay.
Friend.
I know she's trying to drop in there.
Friend.
So cough. Was that a friend?
Friend.
Very nice.
Burn. Memories.
Whoa, coming thick and fast now. So coming thick and fast. Okay, so cough, friend, escape, and memories. Cough, friend, escape, memories.
Anti-disestablishment period.
I love that one.
You just have to go in there for sure. Okay, so apparently Cat got in there first, which is I'm sure you'll all be relieved. So cough, friend, escape. What was the cough, escape? Memories. Very good.
And cat.
And cat. Which is actually Next month we'll do anti-disintelligence.
Carry over.
We'll carry over. Okay, so yeah, and CIT. So there are the 5 words. Follow this quote and welcome to the chat as well. So cough, friend, escape, memories, cat, and you'll have the next 15 minutes to write a poem containing, or a poem or a piece of literature containing those 5 words. Best of luck. Yeah, you can use it whatever like.
All right.
5 words ongoing, Ray.
Thank you.
And like dizzy is frightened, you know. And would it be the pacemaker? I wonder. Yeah, it's going off about, yeah. Yeah. Oh, I think so, yeah, I think so. If I get her and I hear anything, I'll let you know. And if you get Mary, let me know. Yeah, okay.
whirring of brain cogs there. A lot of thinking and coming up with witty phrases, I hope. We've just been given a bit of feedback there from our online contingent. Could everybody make sure that they speak right into the microphone, because otherwise you can't be heard on Zoom. It just looks like you're trying to lip sync. But
Things with COVID, everybody shouting in the same microphone. It's not all the time. What are you saying, like?
your input is ever welcome, Rab. We really appreciate it.
Well, next month, everybody bring their own mic.
If you are so daring, you can come up and try and contribute your 5-word challenge poem. Thank you.
God, that cat was cat. I coughed, nearly choked, all in an effort to escape memories of my dead friend. He got vaccinated, caught COVID, got vaccinated, got COVID again, then got the booster shot, and then he died. And what would it be his birthday? His 98th birthday. Whatever you can give me on Zoom. Anyway.
And if you are on Zoom and you would like to contribute to the 5-word challenge, would you put your name into the chat box, please?
This is called Just Can't Let It Go. Sustained on the fuel of memories, I would cough out its relevancy to convince a friend who was long moved past and inspire more entranced by the cat arching its name above the cafe's emergency escape.
This is called Escaping the Angry. The cat girl escapes the angry at night, picks the lock with fire engine nails, sits in the memories left out by all the stray children, lonely chip bags, cough up ketchup. It smears the potholed streets of Christmas. She licks her tail with a long sandpaper tongue, feigning indifference. All she ever wanted was a friend.
Cold December night, and my cat appeared at the window as the snowflakes fell gently on his beautiful black fur. I'd been out sick, and was feeling very down, and I noticed every time I coughed, the cat meowed back. While I believe the concept of sentient creatures, I was more than surprised when this session continued for some time. The memories then flowed back about how I acquired my new cat friends. It was a summer evening as the sun retreated to the west and left flickering shadows on the skip truck that I was walking past. There was some traffic, but I heard a meow through the din. I approached the skip, and in this most exquisite brown Thomas bag full of pink paper, there was this tiny little kid. I lifted up the bag and felt myself moving into the higher echelons of society. The cat tried to escape, but I gently coaxed him into my arms. Into my arms. Oh Lord, into my arms.
So we're going to have a contribution from our online contingent. And Catherine, would you like to read your poem there?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, awesome. Mine's called Hairball. My cat coughs. He coughs a lot. Cough, 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 cough. Sometimes it is accompanied by a gross, gooey hairball, and sometimes, if I'm lucky, it is not. Well, do I love my cat? Of course I do. I have such pleasant memories of his licks and purrs and kisses. He really is my best friend. Whenever I feel sad or blue, he gently puts his paw in my hand. But then, cough, 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 up comes another disgusting hairball. He has left me a charming gift to clean up. Great. That's when I pretend I don't know him, never met him, and I make a hasty, well-timed escape. Thank you.
And while we're online, you might as well have Brendan's contribution as well, please.
Yeah, much shorter and no title. The joke's not funny anymore. The cat has long escaped the bag. Will not be hoodwinked by the whore, coughing like a midnight hag. His blonde ambition is found out. Narcissus does it for his own part. My friend, your memories count for naught, so strike the stake right through his heart.
In our heads, we escaped into places under places under places under places under places under places, away from other places. You could only enter with certain memories. The special way Mom walks, the certain way Dad coughs. It's the same underworld where all the cats got lost. It's the place where echoes reply from. It's small but spacious, enough room to keep the warmth in. Let's go. Oh, and don't forget to bring a hug. A friend's hug. Thank you.
Let's go back online there. We might have Sue Blues contribution there. Thank you, Sue.
Hi guys, nice seeing everyone. Brilliant. So okay, here we go. It's called Gone. The scent of you wakes memories, my love, my girl. I drown my missing you in dancing alone. Escape in busifying myself with poetry not mine. Direct my love to my newfound friend, my little tiger cat, whose purring keeps me sweet. And when you write an angry email, curt, I cough and scoff and tame my hurt at your young contempt, while waiting patiently until you evolve to return, because forgiveness is the nature of motherhood. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Sue. So we have Ray Halloran.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
No!
Okay. All right. This poem is written from the point of view of a cat. It's called The Bitter Kitty. It's not easy, friend, being a cat. That fur doesn't lick itself, you know. You can get your food handed to you. That's no good. I prefer the chase. Yet I'm made out a criminal for the fancy. Would you like to be separated from your darling mother at such a young age as was I? Nah, I didn't think so. My kittenhood rearing doesn't make for the fondest of memories. The moment I cough, humans who think they own me think I'm sickening to death. So off to the dreaded vet. I can never escape. So if you ever say I have the life, I'll scrub your goddamn face off.
Nice one, Ray. And we'll have Augustina next.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, there we are. I thought I might escape this cough and be in the company of friends, forming fond memories. But I thought about how the fear of COVID might have people uncomfortably looking at me, sitting in the pub, enjoying the warmth, trying to clear my throat with every sip. Thinking hopefully they believe me when I say it's flu season and that's all it is. But instead I sit here watching online, talking about the neighborhood cat to potential housemates, soon to be filling an empty room. Thank you.
This is the memory from the other night from the big festival of cat. So I try to remember what I did with girls. Saying farewell to my beloved 19-year-old woman to cat. So keep it above the words. Furball memory coughed up and offered up, escapes my deposit box. Deposits delivered and stored in sabre fur and one sabre tooth. 2 little empty socks and 2 furry bodies. 1 tooth and tooth he had. He had imperious tuxedo markings, and he waited for the mountain to melt the morning on his windowsill, his balcony of content. Ladyboy cat, friend to none but his old maid, that'd be me. Passion, beamish, we tried all the fancy appellations, but he stayed. I was in there now, outsized hind legs, L-shaped hinges springing to action, all the look of osteolar Pistorius's incredible orthotics. and sometimes Blade Runner for the frontier of the top wall, defying the neighbour's Angus bull in action, taunt as a cattle bouncing between them. Earthy kit, dark exotic, he slunk in the dark. Perfect voice, slick and black. Into the night, he stalks off. My most excellent cat, my lady, my cat. That's it.
I was on the fence with this, so I said I jump off the fence. Mike, whoa. It's called Where Do You Go When You Zone Out? If I could transport anywhere, it would be there, somewhere embedded in the memory of you, melted out, a puddle of aching muscles and bones worn out from each other. Your chunky knit gloves still on, one on the cat's head, levitating with it. Your eyes so out of focus, like you're watching a jewel in orbit. Your jaw cocked open, low and lifeless. A bead of drool finally leaps from your lips cliff, and it falls like time is slow. You return to earth with a cough, then a what? When I asked you where you'd gone, you said to your escape, and if I could transport anywhere, my friend, it would be there with you.
Pam Campbell next.
I have a flurry of notes. Let's see if I can read them. Okay. Perhaps, coughed the silky, soft, torty cat into the dank darkness of junkyard rabble. Switches tail like windshield wipers, left to right, again and again, between formidable lines, drawn betwixt enemy and friend, country and city. As battle, clawful clatter escapes as battle-torn bodies rage. The silky soft torty bends half-bit ear and body made wiser of life on the lamb and memories still of gentle touch and care. Plausibility, sang Torty. Plausibility is the song of hope. There you go.
Thanks, Pam. And we have Matt Mooney as well, please.
Right. The poem I have put together is entitled Dare Cough, a mixture of cats and people. A cat is so quiet, but humans make their presence felt, knowingly or unknowingly. Yet cats are such friends to have, though never saying it, being so quiet, they show their love of you by leaping in your lap. And if you're sitting still, they'll fall asleep like any baby would. A not so silent memory of those I loved I have is of being at Mass in our country chapel, when almost all went Sundays, and met before and after for a chat on farming things and neighbours' troubles. Among them my father went as well, and knelt well back inside the door, till I went up the aisle. But what I remember most of him, and my Uncle Batty too, well back, was that when they coughed, I knew that I was among my own, and I didn't have to see them, A cough can be so personal, you can't escape being noticed. It gives the game away that you were there. And if you live with someone or meet them every day, their cough is what you will remember. That's what signifies them to you. Being alive, your reason for being reassured, memorized from home.
Is there any other contributions to come from the room? Oh, very nice.
This is questionable, but I think I was born without shame, so here we go. A cat song. Many meowsicles ago, I abandoned my plans for escape. I was once a young cat, but now no meower. I befriended the idiot dog, demeaned meow self for the dumb luxury of a fluffy pillow beneath me as my old bones sleep. This cough will be the death of me, literally, one vet visit away from the long meow. I've nothing left now to hold between my claws, except my useful memories of chasing chicks and pussy.
How are we doing? Is there any more there to come?
After it's better out than in, or it's better your time not being when I'm going to share it anyway, because otherwise I'll just go away and it's stuff that I didn't. So, a cough is a friend in the wrong, a cough is a friend in the wrong circumstances. It's like having a cat on the arsehole next door is allergic. Memories are slippery, made to change, to be forgotten. Remember to remember. Learn to purr loudly. Escape yourself.
Thank you, Rosie. And we're gonna have Ben Burns. He's gonna contribute there.
Hello, can you hear me? Cool. This is some advice. Befriend local cats and escaped memories. Don't cough in public places.
Succinct and to the point. Nice one. Seems to be a load of entries there, lads. Are there any late entrants? Oh. Days, happy days.
I wasn't sure whether I could actually do this or not. I'd say dedicated to my friend Michelle. Michelle loved her 10. Last thing into Merrymount. She died 2 weeks ago tomorrow. Her laugh was as infectious as a COVID cough. A green tambourine was our escape every New Year's Eve. My lovely friend had many stories. She always loved animals, went for stirrup cup every student's day, drag hunting every Sunday. But one of the stories that she loved to tell was about the day she ran after a woman in a car that had killed a cat, insisted that she report to the guards, and that if she would not, then she would report to the guards herself. A few months later, I held a communion party for my daughter. Michelle approached me in a very serious voice. "What is the cat killer doing here?" The cat killer was my sister-in-law. Oh, these memories will get us through.
Nice one. Anyone? Anyone else? Charles, what are your thoughts? We leave it there. I think that's pretty much it. But listen, well done. Unreal. What a turnout. There was at least 18. So fair play. And we're just gonna go and figure out who won. Hold your breath. So, the old Zoom contingent, if you could type into the chat box who it was, whose poem was your favorite, and vote that way. We'll corroborate them with the votes in the room, and we will come up with the winner that way. Thank you very much. Okay. And we have a result. It has been decided by the upper echelons of the decision makers out of Vale, which are sitting over there and standing here and making a call about this now was very difficult, and it has been decided that we're going to have a split decision until such a time as the audio on Zoom can be improved so that they can hear everybody in the room. We're going to have one Zoom winner and one winner in the room. Well, give everybody all you like. He's taking complaints. Paul's going to take your complaints there, and you can leave them in a little letter. You can start writing your letters now. If you like. You can do whatever you like. We love a Hawkeye. So the winner on Zoom, based on the voting system on Zoom, was Ray Hanrahan. And the winner, according to the clapometer in the room, was Oshi. Well done to everybody for their contributions. This is an unbelievable 5-word challenge, and we'll just both winners will be getting the prize, the same prize of the 3 books and a drink of your choice. Although Ray, it could be difficult to get you your drink. You can take it out of this drink. Yeah, you just have to. Yeah, just send it. Send them a can. So Ray, if you'd like to say your poem again, and then Roshi will get you to say your poem again. So we get Ray Hanrahan there. He's still around.
Yeah, I'm still here. I'll try not to shout this time. I suppose, it's a cat's life, a bitter kitty. It's not easy, friend, being a cat. For it doesn't lick itself, Yeah, you can get your food handed to you. That's no good. I prefer the chase. Yet I'm made out a criminal for the fancy. Would you like to be separated from your darling mother at such a young age as was I? Nah, didn't think so. My kittenhood rearing doesn't make for the fondest of memories. The moment I cough, humans who think they own me think I'm sickening to death. So off to the dreaded vet, I can never escape. So if you ever say I have the life, I'll scrub your goddamn face off.
Gee, thanks. Escaping the Avery. The cat girl escapes the Avery at night, picks the lock with fire engine nails, sips in the memories left out by all the stray children. Lonely chip bags cough up ketchup. It smears the potholed streets like a disease. She licks her tail with a long sandpaper tongue, feigning indifference. All she ever wanted was a friend.
Thanks so much. Well done. Our 2 winners. So we're going to move on to our next part of the evening now. I'm just going to have, before this next part starts, we're going to have a few announcements. So the 9th 5-word International Poetry Competition continues. This year's judge is Maurice Reardon, and for submission details, you can find them at ovail.ie. And then this week's words from the 9th to 16th November are wing, copper, acorn, string, and infinite. If you just can't get enough of the 5-word challenge and you want to start another one immediately, you can get working on that. A second announcement is just that Ovail aims to maintain a safe space for writers and the general public. While we discourage self-censorship, we expect participants to be sensitive to and to refrain from any offensive or discriminatory language, including that relating to race, gender, religion, cultural background, etc., in line with the Arts Council's Equality, Human Rights and Diversity policy, or from any phrasing that may be hurtful towards marginalized or minority groups. The private chat mode is available for all participants to use during the event, so we ask you to please be respectful when communicating via these channels and to report any offence or online abuse to Ovail either through the private chat or to info@ovail.ie. Please be aware that the event will be available to revisit as an MP3 podcast and on video via vimeo.com/Ovail. Our third hybrid event will be on Monday, the 13th of December, and features our very own Conor McManus and Leon Flynn. And the first 30 people to book a seat either tonight or by email will be confirmed a place. So basically, we thought that it was going to be just like open to everybody by this stage, but that's not the case right now. So if you think you will be around next month and you'd like to come back next month, just say Paul and he'll put you down on the list. Or else, if you're unsure, you can email him as well. There are still places available for both workshops in the winter warmer. So MK Chavez is an online workshop, and Molly Toomey's workshop is in person. It's going to be up here. And the winter warmer is on the last weekend in November. It's a hybrid festival with live events, simulcast from Nanornago Place. It also features our annual poetry film competition shortlist of 30 international poetry films. This year, we're including an additional selection of recent Irish poetry films. And for more on that, you can visit ovail.ie/winter warmer. And we would also just like to thank everybody who's kindly offered donations. There's a donation jar just underneath the horse. Usually this gets passed around, but I'm not going to pass it around. You just have to go to the horse. And underneath the horse, there is a donation jar. If you would like to contribute, we really appreciate all the contributions that you make to help Ovail run throughout the year, and also there's the donations via PayPal. Right, so now we're going to just introduce this part of the evening. There's going to be 14 writers, and they're going to read the work of Joseph Sweeney. Many of you know who Joseph Sweeney is, and a very much loved contributor to Ovail for a long time. Yeah, he passed away in May 2021. So I'll just read his bio for you here. Joe Sweeney was a much beloved writer and poet who mostly wrote humorous short stories. Joe passed after a short illness in May 2021. He was a regular at Ovail since its outset in 2007. And was well known to local folk writers in particular. A number of Joe's poems and excerpts from his short stories will be read by many of these local writers. Joe lived just outside of Blarney in Cork and taught in Cork's North Mon Secondary School for many years before becoming a full-time writer. He was a member of a number of Cork writers' groups. He also lived and taught in France and Spain. He was born in Dublin and graduated from UCD with an honours master's degree in Anglo-Irish literature in 1983, soon after which he became a prize winner at the Stowe Writers' Week for a humorous essay in 1984. He won the Cross-National University Short Story Award in 1984 and first prize at the Stowe Writers' Week for another humorous essay in 1985. He won first prize again at the Stowe Writers' Week in 2014, followed by a Brian McMahon Short Story Award in 2015. He was shortlisted for the Francis McManus Award in 2017 and the Los Gatos Listowel Writing Festival Prize in California, the Brian McMahon Short Story Award in 2018, and the Bray Literary Festival Prize in 2019. He's been widely published in magazines, newspapers, and collections in the UK and Ireland, and has had work broadcast multiple times on national radio. Tilting at Windmills, published in September of 2014, is a multi-award-winning collection of humorous stories and essays. It contains 4 prize-winning pieces, including 2 first prizes from Listowel Writers' Week competitions and 1 shortlisted by Reader's Digest. Tilting at Windmills, said Joe himself, is like Don Quixote charging at all kinds of monstrosities and pomposities to see what laughter I can release. Whether stories, this is Alan Tippy's comments about tilting at windmills. He says, whether stories, sketches, vignettes, dramas, this collection always raises a laugh or a smile. The author is a wonderful practitioner of that unmanageable Irish trait of being both funny and serious at the same time. Alice Taylor says, a view of life that will put a smile on your face. And then Tomas McCarthy says, a marvelous anthology of humorous urgings which brings to the world a healing and uplifting humanism. I think a lot of us can relate to that when it comes to Joe's work. A great appreciator of laughter and someone who often reminded us of the importance of laughing. So yeah, we're going to have a few readers come up now, so we're going to just try and move through them. I'll get the ball rolling, sure, while I'm here. So each reader is going to have 5 minutes each. So I'll just call them out as we go through. Okay. So I'll go first, and this is taken from Tilting at Windmills, and it's called Good Weather Report. I think it's fitting given what's going on in Glasgow over this couple of weeks and all the protests that happened over the weekend around the world. I think this is a good, fitting weather report that Joe left us. Good weather report. It will be dry this morning as soon as the rain stops. Winds will be moderate, not during the storm, of course, but after that passes in the late afternoon, there will be nothing to worry about. In fact, it will get a little warmer this evening, with temperatures in the low teens. And though more heavy rain will follow, even turning to flooding during the night, it will then be dry almost tomorrow. Now on Thursday, we are expecting Hurricane Harry. Needless to say, the winds will be far from moderate while Harry is doing on, so get ready to batten down the hatches over the weekend. The snow that we've been seeing in high places shouldn't last too long, as it's early August and summer is at its height. There will be extensive fog over the Midlands tomorrow, but this should clear by the early afternoon. Wednesday will see the current prolonged spell of overcast weather in the north finally clearing off towards the east, making for some fresh clouds from the west to be followed, as we have said, by Harry from the south on Thursday. Now, the long-term forecast. Downpours, though heavy, are unlikely to persist for the whole month. A few weeks at most. The weather is generally likely to improve in the autumn, as it's simply not possible, given the laws of probability, for it to go on raining day after day for much longer. Though, having said that, maybe it could. We here at the Met Office are keeping our fingers crossed, and we would advise the public to do the same. Hang on until tomorrow. Keep your hopes high, even if the temperatures go low. Just keep scarf and gloves handy, and buy a stock of all-weather umbrellas. They should last you for a couple of outings anyway. Let's just try to keep positive as the flooding and storm force winds persist. Keep your eyes peeled for any lovely rainbows, and God willing, we'll be out of this current spell of bad luck before long. News is just coming in of another Arctic winter for this year, but global warming is still a scientific fact, and no doubt we will eventually benefit. One day, soon, we can all look forward to a good roasting. And we'll have Sheila O'Flynn next, please.
This is one of Joe's 5-word poems. Built. We lie in the orchard, staring up at a sky rich with apples and stars. It is August. The May blossoms have long since blown. The red fruits wave in the twilight. Blackberries are tangled along the wall. We picked some earlier, but they broke in the abattoir of our hands, led away through our fingers. We have crushed our secrets between our bodies. We lie now, two insomniacs, in the aftermath, in the silence of night, unable to dream, unable to sleep, utterly awake, while the world around us slumbers effortlessly, wishing we could put the berries back on the branches.
We're going to have Ed O'Dwyer.
Thank you. Just going to read this very short little piece from Thou Shalt Not Laugh. So it's a kind of collection of vignettes in tilting at Wilhelm's. This is the fourth one. It's called Suffer Little Children. Adults may be guarded and disguise their activities in church. Children are more upfront. If not restrained, they can pull at daddy's hair just while he is striving to look devout. Baby one may be testing his new teeth on daddy's ear though, and simultaneously scratching his face to see if he can get a reaction. Meanwhile, baby two is launching an attack from the rear, punching at buttocks and pulling mommy's jumper beyond stretching point. Parents try to pacify their children, and you will sometimes catch them twisting startled grimaces into expressions of wonder and divinity. Children have an uncanny gift for choosing the wrong moment for their escapades. Their behavior may be exemplary during the noisy collection, as they are too busy wondering if they might be able to remove something from the plate without being seen. During the hushed consecration, however, they sense their chance, and the church can sound like a disorganized creche with all the screeching and howling. When it's time to go up for communion, children, if not held back, charge up in a savage competition for hosts, even tripping up competitors if necessary. On their way back down to the altar, their faces contort with suppressed laughter until they arrive back at their seat and kneel down. Once back in their seats, of course, they no longer feel like laughing.
Thanks a lot, Ed. Nice one. And well, we are still on Zoom. Julie, if you would like to read.
Thanks, Kieran. This is a lovely way to, I suppose, to commemorate Joe and his writing. He was definitely one of the friendliest people when I started attending Ovale a long time ago. And as a writer, he was inspiring and very encouraging. I really like this poem. I came across it in the 5 Words Anthology, Volume 6, and it's entitled Flame. At the heart of the flame, the truth is burning. Inside the autumn house, a shadow turning, with a candle. In a mirror, a painting of a horseman, a huntsman in flamboyant red, above a kill casting a cold eye on life and death. The moon is drifting, the season turning. Deep within the flame, the truth is burning.
Thanks, Julie. We'll have Colin Scully up next, please.
Thank you, Karen. I'm just going to read not something by Joe, but a little reminiscence I wrote of my own about Joe Sweeney. It's called An Evening with Joe Sweeney. One winter's evening, no one else turned up to the writers' group, except me and Joe. We sat in the bar of the Riverlea Hotel and discussed the other two, who had surreptitiously scribed off their poetry reading in the Almanacs. They would be late, but never came. Poor communications, we both agreed. Thinking back, that was the seed of Joe's alienation from the group. Monday was a bad night for him, he said a few months later. He liked to get to Ovale early. He stopped coming for a while. But that particular evening, we didn't read, as true was difficult for close analysis, but mulled over my coffee and a small beer. I was in the mood, having been bawled out of it by my younger female boss at work, totally unwarranted. He listened kindly to my grievances, interested as he always was, threw some aphorisms at me, comic quips, lightened my burden, gave me some insight to his secret life. He talked about his time teaching in south of France, visiting with the school principal and his wife, entertaining them with his piano virtuosos in their front room. I was almost there. He owned a house in Paris, rented it out, he said, was free to take a holiday there every year in that or an equivalent apartment, which he never did while I knew him, though he always talked about taking a little sojourn in Paris. I loved his humour and his friendliness, always a welcoming smile to hail off, stationed at the bar, just there where Michelle is now. Always a generous comment about your poem. I loved his one-liners. I'm a stowaway on the ship of dreams. I live in a world of music. And he did. I never heard him play, but loved the music in his words. He was idiosyncratic, a student of literature rather than life. Joe gave everything to his characters. His retired cop solving murders in LA, Maeve, the student hating teacher, bent on undermining her principal. Novels. He was writing a horror story every day for 100 days of COVID. That evening, I was glad of him and his advice. I never got the chance to tell him that I had cut the ropes of work and floated like him in the dreamy bay of full-time writing. I admired him so much for his courage in making that choice. With COVID and everything, I had not seen him for 2 years. I was glad of Zoom, and that just before the end, we put him back into our virtual writers group. He did not share his screen during those few meetings. He said he had technical problems. I think now maybe he was keeping something from us. But I remember with fondness that evening in the Riverlea Hotel when we chatted and mused gently on our lives.
We'll have Conor McManus up next, please. Next month's guest.
Thanks, Kieran. I think Joe was one of the first people in the writing world that I met when I came to Cork, and he actually directed me to Ovale, which has had a big impact on my writing.
ago, myself and Joe decided to set up. He was always his own man. A few years ago, we decided to set up a writers group, but we couldn't agree on the night, the time, or the venue. So what we could agree on was there'd be no poems and no poetry and no poets. We were adamant about that. It was going to be a prose group. So the first night came along anyway, and Joe was going to do the first reading, and he pulls out a poem. And to make matters worse, it was a long poem. That was Joe. So this is a piece I'm going to read. It's actually, it's from his book, Digging the Wilderness. It's called Age. I'll just read part of it. I want to read some of Joe's prose. Isn't that good, isn't it? There's a poem there. Age, the problem with Ruben. Some years after leaving university, I ran into my old college friend Ruben. We were teenagers when we first met as freshers. But poor Ruben was a changed man, a mockery of his former self. When I commented on this, he said, well, I am 31, you know, as if this made everything all right. We had some chat about the old days, but it wasn't the same. I felt let down somehow. Several years later, I ran into him again, only to find that he was no longer even 31. Apparently, he was now 37 or 42 or something. Every time I met him, he seemed to be talking about his age. He seemed obsessed with it. Age is of no interest to me, not since I finally settled the matter to my own convenience. Why waste your life chasing around after elusive numbers? I've never agreed with age as a concept. It keeps altering from year to year. What is the point of chopping and changing like Henry V did? With every passing year, no wonder faith and integrity are on the decline. People need something to anchor them. Otherwise, they will just drift like seaweed on the tide. If you keep letting yourself go with every birthday that flows in and out, where will it all end? One must put one's foot down. Thank you.
Thanks for coming. We have Max. You're up next, please.
Yeah, past Joe's mustard. So Joe was a man of immense personal charm. Can you hear me? Into the mic. Okay. Thanks, Rob. He had immense personal charm, and he had a very irreverent way of taking you to task when you were out of line. And he would always do a little critique of every kind of hastily written impulse song. So the potential, you were getting there, Max, you were getting there. So, and when I just said you've arrived, I think you landed with that one. Because you like Rula, like for Tom Hilfiger, if you like singing for him. But you know, he always called me little nickname, and I did a little nickname back for him. But I did delight in Joe because he was like a little taste of Victorian parlour humour, you know. There was never a trace of anything vulgar, you know, language-wise, sort of very covert. And I'd say to enjoy your sashay in and out at your own time and your own kind of schedule. So this song is kind of my little reply because he always says, Mags, someday I will arrange and compose them all with you. And I see you do the Shostakovich piano for this piece. And he was going to do minuets and gavottes. And it was all going to happen. Of course, the inner sanctum, no, like all were going out of there, but I never got there. So this is kind of my little goodbye that we had, we always talked about. So, can you hear me now? Okay, you were probably to task so I can do this again. Okay. So I call it a Minuetto Giuseppe or the Giuseppe Sachet. Minuetto Giuseppe, the Sweeney sachet. I did the master sketches for your pictures that you hope they print. And if the editor would fancy them, you might just make a mint. When we lunched for the first draft, you looked down at the lead and you visualized each story, you described them for me. Sorry, Mickey Tarzan. And I'd say, Joe, what are you going to give up for Lent? Oh, my dear, that would be vanity. Oh, Peacock, best of luck with that. And you just review and listen to each little composition that I play. And you promised to play piano at your salon soiree. Yes, you promised to play piano at your salon. You went to Giuseppe, the Sweeney sachet. And then I appoint to myself, wing woman, when you won in the stole on that day. Now I was the peacock as my wing of sachet. On Sunday, Miss Eleni, your rich polished tone bathed the airways in your voice alone. And I said, Joe, those fables are implausible, I'd say, but drops of truth on each page, on each leaf are gray. And you review and listen to each little composition that I play. And you promised to play piano in your garden soiree. And you promised to play piano at our salon soiree. All together now. La 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 bum bum la la bum bum. You went to Giuseppe, the Sweeney sachet. At Bishopstown Writers as you held the chair, and we fill it and edit your words if we dared. And he'd say, Max, you're slowly just getting there. And one night, oh my dear, you've arrived. I think you've landed, I declare. And I walked home on air. And he'd review and listen to each little composition that I played. And he promised to play piano at our garden soiree. And I reviewed and listened to each little composition that I played. And he promised to play piano at our garden soiree. You went to Giuseppe, the Sweeney sachet. You went to Giuseppe, our Sweeney sachet. And you reviewed and listened to each little composition that I played. And you promised to play piano at our garden soiree.
Class, Max, absolutely class, like unreal. Best luck, you know, Ben, following that.
Hi, can you hear me? Yeah. Okay.
Definitely can't hear you.
You can't. Mags, that was amazing. I'm going to read one of Joe's 5-word poems, It's untitled, but it says, "To whom it may concern." Recently, I got a new kind of spectacles called varifocals. Suddenly, I was seeing things I had never seen before. Extraordinary things started happening. I saw a platypus in a hoodie wheeling a trolley out of a supermarket, pursued by a dog with 2 sheep. The duck-billed platypus then rammed a car with his trolley and did considerable harm. There was a crunching metallic sound, and then the car disintegrated, turned into a flock of crows who, along with the platypus, the sheep, and the dog, all flew away. I suppose it can only mean one thing. Shouldn't have gone to Specsavers.
Thanks, Ben. This one. We'll have Billy Rams on next. Billy, if you're there.
I'm here.
Oh, good to see you, mate.
Up the rebels. Greetings from Spain, from Barcelona. When I think of Joe, I think of a character of extraordinary mischief and extraordinary wisdom. And there are 2 characteristics that you don't often see combined in a person. And he had both of them in spades. He was a wonderful man and a wonderful writer. And I know what a loss he is to our community, the community of O'Vale, and beyond that, the wider literary community of Cork, and beyond that, the wider literary community of Munster, and beyond that. And there's memories as well that I have of him that come to mind on a night like this, watching all of you perform, and they bubble to the surface, you know, but one that comes back to me is, in particular, is at the Bantry Literary Festival. I know many of you would have been there over the years. One particular night with Joe, and he probably wasn't a great drinker, but that night he had definitely had a few drinks, and so did I, and we stayed up for many hours after the readings, and we set the world to rights. And I often think about, I've thought about that conversation a lot, you know, in the months since his death. So, has anybody read A Polyester Wedding yet? I take that as a no. I'll read it anyway. If somebody else, yeah? I'm in the clear, I'm just going to read it. A Polyester Wedding by Joseph. After a disaster of a wedding, where most of the guests got food poisoning, we made a swift exit and headed off on our honeymoon. We were taking a motoring trip through Europe, destination the Grecian Isles, where we had booked a luxury hotel. The sat-nav in our hired car, however, broke down, and we ended up in a freezing little hamlet in the Swiss mountains, just before we ran out of petrol. And as we sat in the car that night and blew into our hands, we had our first fight ever, and we were already wondering how long you had to be married before you could get divorced. Early this morning, though, we saw a troop of English tourists with their children dressed in lederhosen, flouncing along singing, "Here we go gathering nuts in May, nuts in May, nuts in May. Here we go gathering nuts in May on a cold and frosty morning." We laughed so much. That St. Bernard moment, I think, was when our honeymoon was resuscitated. It may even have saved our marriage. Thanks a million, and here's the joke.
So Margaret, Billy. Next we'll have Michelle Delay, please.
I didn't know Joe very well, just through a veil, and it's really lovely to have his company, have his family and friends tonight. I think he definitely stood out to me as somebody who, extremely classy. Yeah, I think extremely classy man. I think, who saw the beauty in everything, the humor in everything, and was just so joyful to be around. So I think everyone can aspire to take after him in that way. So I'm going to read a 5-word challenge poem that Joe wrote in March 2011, so it's over 10 years old, and it's untitled. We climbed Knocknarea Mountain to visit Queen Mary's tomb. Just you and me and a wind that would skin you. We stood and held each other and looked over Ireland until the sun changed the clouds from gold to the colour of blood. As we descended, the sun was gone, the land shadowy as history. We shared the last of the potato crisps on that old bog road, but we were still hungry.
Thanks, Michelle. We'll have Seamus Harrington next, please.
Thanks, Kieran. So many happy memories with Joe. Trips to Limerick, Dublin, borrowing the power washer, walks and very short walks. There were afternoon tea, piano recital, and guitar. Going to buy a new car. And I tried to prevent him. He said me this a long time back. The secrets of cats. Eyes glued to the laptop, Jeremy takes a cautious bite of toast. Amanda is looking out the kitchen window and frowning. Jeremy turns his head. She mutters something, then disappears out the door and down the back garden. The rhubarb's broken, she says when she returns. He's away in the Dow Jones. She goes on talking, her words lost in the angry clang of saucepans and cutlery as she unloads the dishwasher. It's hardly ling lang, is it? She says, the only sentence to reach him intact. Jeremy claws the mouse, darts it forward into the footsie. Ling lang, the neighbour's cat, disappeared almost a year ago. Amanda had comforted her distraught neighbour at the gate. Ursula Martin had mobilised her husband around the neighbourhood in search of the missing animal. The following day, she led a search party of bewildered children down the road, pinned posters on trees on the Riverwalk, attached them to shop windows between 3 for the price of 2 offers, and even the church porch. Underneath a picture of their huge orange Asian cat with trailing whiskers and inscrutable oriental eyes were the words, "Has anyone seen Ling Lang? Reward offered." "I'm sure he'll turn up," Amanda had said, to comfort her neighbour. Secretly praying he didn't. Ling Lang was a one-cat army, a despot. Amanda hadn't been able to leave a door or window open during his reign, or as she now referred to it, the Ling Lang dynasty. She found him slinking down the stairs once, commandingly, like Nero or Caligula, descending the steps of imperial Rome. She'd found faint depressions on the bed and cat's hair on the pillows. Not wanting to risk souring the relations with her neighbours, she never breathed anything to Ursula. They'd never give up Ling Lang anyway. They'd cling onto him like drowning people to a raft. Amanda just smiled through gritted teeth and told Ursula Martin she'd keep an eye out for Ling Lang. She meant it too. She'd been doing little else for years. You think it might come back after all this time, Jeremy? She repeats. He murmurs doubtfully. Amanda flicks a quick side glance at her husband. It's all right for Jeremy. He has his work every day, meetings, colleagues, lunches. She only meets the women in the book and poetry group once a fortnight. These morning exchanges are important to her. The way Jeremy gets absorbed in that laptop, she sometimes feels like she isn't really there. It's like it's just her and Jeremy's holograms interfacing, having virtual conversations. She feels like an aging Princess Leia, exiled at the kitchen sink, breaking up, crackling, trying to talk to her husband many miles away, online in a distant galaxy of investment, stocks, and shares.
Nice one, Seamus. So we've 4 more to go. We have Rab Urquhart next. Huh?
Julie Goose stole my thunder.
There's many things to. Okay, so yeah.
You could read it again. Sure.
Yeah, you can have a
Scottish accent.
Yeah.
Exactly. It'll sound different, right?
So I have this thing when I go in the library and I'm looking for a book. I read it years ago and it said, look at page 69 if you want to see if it's going to be a good book. So here we go. This is page 69 from Joe's book. Misunderstandingly, generally making clear that any rumours blowing around the town concerning this must be a misprint concerning guests at Humberton Hall were nothing but chaff in the breeze. All our guests would assure the police were top notch. We had no reason to think otherwise. A little bohemian at times, well travelled, artistic maybe, that we might concede. But none of them would ever do anything in contravention of British law. Why, we owed it to the colonials to keep the thing ship-shape and above board at home. Reports that one of our guests had been seen swaying on one of the balconies as if he had smoked or sniffed a bit of too much some illegal substance or other were damn lies. We assured the police that on the night in question, the guest in question was in safe custody of Lolly and Emily, and there was never at any point a danger to himself or the public. They said that someone else was seen on the balcony in the early stages of undress, calling down names at a traffic policeman. They even had some cock and bull story about our guests hurling sections of melon down on the bobby.
This one, Rob. Right, go over the contingency plan. And right, so we have Rosie O'Regan next.
I'm in a similar role to Rab, because you read what I had planned to read. Whatever, Kieran.
That's all supposed to be coordinating it.
Yeah.
That was you, Rab.
Well, I decided very last minute, so it's probably my own fault. I suppose I'd like to just say that, yeah, it's really lovely to be here and to hear everybody's memories and experiences of Joe and how somebody knew him so much better than I did. Like he was here definitely when I first started coming, and I was probably a little bit not sure of Joe at the start. You know, I guess I thought he was kind of prim and proper, and maybe I kept him at arm's length for a little while, and probably for quite a while actually, until he kind of found myself sitting beside him one night. I think it was in Mainz. I don't remember what we were talking about, but we were talking, and I suddenly went, "Oh, this guy's really cool." Like, you know, he's, you know, I had this prejudice, I suppose, like we all have our prejudices, and that was a wake up moment for me about books and covers, and yeah, simply that. Yeah, he's great and really lovely to hear all your experience and to know just how mischievous he was, and standalone kind of person, I guess, Joe. Like, anyway, hearing the stories, and I'm being surprised, and I feel like I'm getting to know him after the fact, which is sad for me. So my loss there. I'm sure Joe's all right wherever he is. So I had planned to read what Kieran read. So obviously that was read. So I would like to ask his sister over here, who I met at his send off, if you have a favorite story in here or anything that you might like to hear.
When you open it around yeah.
This one's not in the book.
Okay.
So he's read it here before.
Yes.
An abbreviated line. No one else is going to read that. That's okay. That's the one. And it's short. It's nice.
Perfect.
This is the one that you want.
You don't have to stick to it.
No.
Would you want to read?
No.
Yeah.
It's like cold reading, so we'll see how it goes. And for Joe's family, especially his sister over here. Elizabeth, this is for you, Elizabeth. An abbreviated life. Mr. and Mrs. O'D had great plans for their son. They thought the world of him. Gerard was a VIP in their eyes. His father, a CEO at the IFA, had studied in UCD, from which he had an MBA. He now drove a BMW, and his mother worked as a pro with the IPGWU. Most of the neighbours' children were sent to the local BBC, but the O'Ds decided to send their son to a private CES. They felt that education was the way to go. Months before his leaving cert, Gerard, God for short, applied to the DAO for various third-level courses. His first choice was TCD. He wanted to study for a BSc in computing. As a backup, he also applied to DCU, DIT, and UCD. Luckily, he was accepted into Trinity. Well, 4 years flew by, and Gerard passed all his exams and was awarded a science degree, QED. His parents arranged a party and sent an invitation to friends and relations marked RSVP. But just days before the party, Gerard parked his bicycle and was crossing O'Connell Street when he wanted to post a CV to the GPO when his iPhone rang. He'd begun ruching Frank in his bag, where all his computer accessories had become entangled. The USB lead for recharging his iPad had become entangled with his HDMI cable, an ACD adapter for his ACIS iPad, and an LED torch for his bike. While he was trying to separate them, he stumbled into a pothole that the OPW had been meaning to look into and found himself in the path of an ESB van. He was knocked to the other side of the road, where he was again struck by an SUV. He was also caught by a bus coming in the opposite direction from CIE. There was no doubt of any of this, as the whole thing was caught on CCTV. Miraculously, though, Gerard was alive. He crawled to the pathway, determined to get to his graduation ceremony and party and maybe one day get his PhD. A girl who worked as an SNA stopped, called 999 and requested an ambulance. ASAP. A girl who worked as an SNA stopped, called 999 and requested an ambulance. ASAP. She then texted her friend with trembling fingers, OMG, hope you will be okay. The HSE came, and when the ambulance men gave Jared CPR and he regained consciousness, they brought him to A&E and rambled him along on a trolley for an MRI. Due to a recent outbreak of MMRA, it was delayed. Jared lifted his head and the nurse, seeing this promising sign of life, inquired if he had VHI, at which point he fell back and died. The parents were grief-stricken. They tried to get His Excellency Bishop J.P. McGovern, SG, to officiate at the funeral mass, but he had to go away urgently on the missions after a report, had congregated outside the bishop's palace. Jared's parents had to settle for Father H.J. Albright, OSA, Opus Sanctorum Anglorum. As they stood at the grave, Father A.J. Albright said that it was sad that a human life was foreshortened, but at least Jared's death had been mercilessly quick. Jared's parents tried to glean what police they could from Father Albright's words, and the fact that their son had at least died with letters after his name, Jared O.D. B.Sc. R.I.P.
Unreal. Can't play. I remember when Joe said that on this mic. Yeah, fell a bit nice. Yeah, unreal. Fair play, Rosie. More power. That's why I went first to read, because I only decided what I was going to read right before I started as well. So the two of us were caught in the same boat there, so sabotaged your previous effort. But thanks for that, Daw Harding. Oh, please.
Am I all right, Brad?
What?
I'd like to thank Paul and Rosie for keeping O'Bale going during the lockdown. And it's a pity, sorry for reading this number, I forget everything. It's a pity that others didn't have the experience that Rosie had. Once you got to know Joe, that was it. You would never forget him. I was hoping to read his Sunday miscellany piece, too long, and my wife used to use it in school in her classes. She just thought it was so brilliant. Anyway, there were two sides to Joe, the comedian and the serious. As we all know, he was a very funny fellow and could not resist taking the comical side to any serious situation. Even when he was staring death in the face in his last weeks, he could still crack a joke about the awful situation he was experiencing and facing. But it was the serious Joe that I was more interested in. We went to the Soul Festival a few years ago when he won the first prize, not the first time, and for one of the short stories, and we had a great old time. I read lots of the serious short stories along with the comical ones, and I must say that I always thought and told him so that he wasn't concentrating enough on his more literary side of his writing. He asked me to read his brilliant first Gothic novel back in 2008. And I have to say, I was nagging him to persist in getting published, along with a collection of short stories, Gothic as well. I even gave him the title, The Hounds of Mam Turk. If that was one thing that Joe was weak on, it was titles. And we had many discussions on that subject. I hate to say that he was a great procrastinator. Having said that, Joe has entrusted these writings to me with a view to eventually publication, and I hope sincerely to honour his request. Anyway, this is one of his poems that he sent to me 3 years ago. I can't remember that. It's called Witness, and I think it was after he had seen that child that was washed up on the beach during the crossing of the waters. It's called Witness. Silent prosecutor, nature's software. Through religions, ideologies, you see what is. Miniature planet, information satellite, arbiter, orbiter, transmitting truth to the vast depot of the soul where nothing seen can be unseen. You welcome to your surface light, black, white, all colors across your borders, world's victims. Drowning migrants flounder to your translucent arc, pass through your truth-sensitive skin, seeking the fabled garden of conscience. African mother and child walking for miles before dying of thirst. Syrian toddler tugging at rocks, bigger than himself, blinded by tears, searching for his family, his world buried beneath. Oh, little eye, what marvels and atrocities you see. Earth, sea, sky, sun, moon, stars, quick as light. You see quicker than trains to Auschwitz, bombs to Nagasaki, planes to Twin Towers. Earthquakes, volcanoes, tornadoes, tsunamis, atomic clouds, and rainbows. With optic nerve, you stare back at billions of years. See stars dead before Earth was born, riding in like alien magi, bearing gifts, lit with ancient news. With better technology, you see perhaps back to the beginning, the great setting out, nothing becoming something, eternity stirring, curling up like a fetus to birth itself into time, to breathe light, constellations, pin down the void with eyes to look afar to our cradle, show you dark pupil its bright blossoms, a universe fruiting like a great apple tree, and what on earth it all might mean. That's so sweet.
Nice one done. And a final reader for this section, we'll have Emmanuel with Philip Horn, please.
This is a story that Joe and I had a long-term plan to do collaboration in Dublin, but we could never agree on a date. I think that's a kind of a common theme. So I'm very happy to kind of realize this dream with Joe's brother Emmanuel, and I'll be giving some musical effects.
Now there's there's two accents in this. One is it's about a Dublin fella who went to find love, the meaning of love and soul in Tibet. It's called a fable. And there's also an Indian lady in Tibet who immigrated to Tibet from India. It was a late summer. We were in Tibet. Myself and many pilgrims joining in the holy mountains. We come to a last stretch of road, turn the last bend, and there, a mile or two before us, lay our destination. Vast towering walls, great gates of solid gold, This was the ancient fabled mountain garden. Some said it didn't exist, but I was a believer. An old woman by the roadside. An old woman beside the roadside with a patch over one of her eyes squinted at me. Would you like some water? She said, fresh and cold from the mountain streams. Yes, I said, thank you. She poured the water from a jug she was carrying, and it glittered like silver in the sun, and she handed it to me in the beaker of water, and I noticed her watching me keenly with her one good eye. I finished drinking and handed her back the beaker. It is an extraordinary garden, she said, looking towards the huge golden gates in the distance. She smiled. You know, even from outside, on summer evenings, you can smell the fragrances, hear the birds singing. They say that inside the fragrances are heavenly. She frowned. But it is difficult to get inside for some impossible. I finished drinking and handed her back the cup. I have a key, I told her, wiping my mouth. I bought it in the market in Chengdu. A Chinese key, very good, but this is Tibet, she said. And the sacred garden has no ordinary lock, it is no ordinary garden. She lowered her head and scuffed the earth with her foot. After a while, I felt her eye on me again. Look around, she whispered. Many travelers come here day after day with keys they have bought in Chengdu or hotels in Shanghai or Beijing. She raised her hand and pointed at the long line of people coming up the mountain. By the time they reach here, they are tired and hungry, searching for the wondrous garden they have heard of in song and story. They all have their keys, but I have seldom seen the gates open. And some keep trying, insisting, until the key twists or breaks. I've seen them cry with rage, grip the gates and shake them, shouting angrily through the bars. Is anyone there? Let me in. I'm tired and hungry. I have come so far. Someone let us in. On winter nights, their cries come long and lonesome like the howl of wolves over the snow. Some hang around for a time, unable to accept that they have come so far in vain. Perhaps they come to the wrong time, in the wrong season. Perhaps they were just unlucky, out of favor with their gods. Who knows, sometimes if darkness is setting in, they remain squabbling among themselves, becoming hungrier and hungrier. I've seen them eat dogs, any animal or bird, or they can catch. Some of them are very good at catching birds. The old woman looked away into the distance to where the sun was beginning its crimson descent. She leaned towards me and whispered, so many people never get inside that garden. You may have come a long way for nothing. And as she was turning to go, she hesitated, and exactly the same moment, we both noticed a little dark thing by the roadside. She lifted it into her hand. It was a swallow. She offered it to me. I put out my hands and she placed it gently into them. This little bird travels farther than any of these people, she said. Thousands and thousands of miles across oceans, over Himalayan snows, hoping for everything but expecting nothing. Feel how light it is, lighter than a key. All it wanted was to go on living, but sometimes it is asking too much. She made a sign with her hand towards heaven, and just at that moment, the little black thing stirred, its tiny body smuggled in the palm of my hand. I gave it some water and some crumbs from a sandwich I had bought, and watched as the swallow raised its head and ate and drank. That is good, the old woman said. the water and the bread of life. The swallow stretched its wings as it testing them, and I felt the feathers tickling my skin. It was still very weak though, and I placed it in the long grass, out of danger. Its little body so light that the blades of grass held it aloft, up off the ground, providing a perch from which it could launch itself back into the heavens as soon as it was able. The old woman smiled, gave me her blessing, and with a wave went off down the road. I continued on my journey until I stood outside the huge gates. People were gathered in a cluster around, all anxious to try their keys, but the gates never opened. The queue was long, the day nearing its end, and I felt tired after my journey. So with my key clutched firmly in my hand, I lay down on the grass. Night fell. A beautiful moon appeared in the heavens like the innocent startled eye of a newborn foal. It looked down, clear and blinking, like an eye upon sleeping on the mountainside. And to me, it seemed it was full of tender compassion and wonder. Beneath its soft gaze, my own eyelids sank and I fell asleep. Many hours later, just before dawn, I was awakened by the furious beating of wings. Before I could react, I felt something sharp landing on my arm and then something being plucked from my hand. Jumping up in alarm, I spotted a magpie, terrible but beautiful, its black and blue wings gleaming in the sinking moonlight. One for sorrow indeed, its beak was clenched around the key I had brought to open the gate. I watched in despair as with a maddening flush of its wings, it flew over the garden and dropped my key on the other side of the high wall. I jumped to my feet and cried out at the dreadful bird, but it was too late. With a mocking cackle, flew off into the grey light of dawn, fading like a fable beyond the silver trees of the mountain garden. I sank to my knees and struck the ground with my fists, angry not at the bird, but with myself and my carelessness. My long journey, the journey of a lifetime, had been a waste. I had been following a foolish dream. The key I had kept so carefully for so many miles was gone now. And then I thought, what does it matter anyway? The key from Chengdu was just like thousands of others. It was almost certainly not have got me into the garden anyway. I went to the gates and shook them. They were vast, heavy, and locked firm. I stared through the bars. The garden inside me was so beautiful, but I would never get in now. Wearily, I turned back down the mountain path. But as I was walking away, I spotted the little swallow flying up and over the gates and landing on the top of a great laburnum. The tree was in full blossom, with golden panicles hanging gracefully down, shining in the light of the rising sun. And there, from the top of the tree, just beside the garden gates, the little black swallow chirped down at me, just once, and I hesitated for a brief moment. Then I heard a voice. Wait, it said. I looked around to see where it was coming from, but I could see no one. I heard the voice again and realized that it was coming from inside the garden. I went back to the gates, and through the bars I could see a figure dressed in white robes hurrying down the great avenue. Wait, the gentle voice said again. I watched as the figure stooped down, picking up something and inserting it into the lock. And as if by magic, the great gate swung open. The figure stood smiling before me in the dawn light, watching me with the eyes that seemed bluer than the sky. The figure opened its arms wide in greeting. Welcome, the figure said, taking my hand and leading me into the garden. Welcome to the garden of love that only opens from the inside.
Thank you so much, Emmanuel, for fair play. Nice to have that fulfilled animated story. That'll do it for the readers in this section of the evening. Huge thank you to everyone who read there and who paid tribute to Joe. Yeah, really nice to have a sense of him in the room with us now. I have the open mic list in my hand here. Yeah, one thing that Joe was, I've known Joe for a long time, I suppose, and he would have seen me kind of grow from about 18 and 28 now, so for about 10 years there. And one very inspiring thing about Joe was his dedication to writing and his dedication to expressing himself. And I was very fortunate to know him at a time in his life when he had sort of made a commitment and to really align himself with his writing and to make a run at it and to really dedicate himself wholly to himself as an artist. And it was a real pleasure to experience him doing that and to know him while he was doing that and to see the joy that it brought him to be able to live out those years of his life as a writer and as a professional writer and a very successful writer as well. So it is, I suppose it's nice for us now to be able to continue to write after his passing. And we have the open mic list here, and if anybody would like to sign up for the open mic, I have it here and I'll write your name down. Thanks a lot. We give a big round of applause for everybody who read there. We're going to take a little 5-minute break while we're going to get get the list together, okay? So you can take a 5-minute break there. Thanks a lot.
They're just just on time. No, just in case you thought it was in house. It's I don't know what you can hear.
Joseph used to always sing songs and play music, so I was wondering if I could sing a song that Joe might have sang.
Yeah, sure. Give your name to Kieran there.
Yeah, no,
Put your name on the list.
in terms, it's on YouTube, but you give me the sound of the music if I was singing it. You know what I mean? It's any way you could add the sound in. I have it on YouTube, but I haven't got enough volume. If there's any extra mic, you could send it out, you know?
Oh, I see you have the music there.
Yeah, well, can you get YouTube on that?
Yeah, this is that's broadcasting live.
Yeah, you're all booked out.
Can you not turn it up? Turn it on and hold it up to the microphone.
Yeah, kind of thing. Yeah, okay.
Hold it right.
Joe's sister there, Mary, is going to say a few words at the start of the next section. Yeah, do you better up early? Yeah, she's going to go right now. Mary Connell wants to. She on them? If you, yeah, you can buy that. No, she's gone. She's gone. You good to go? Let's start. Got time. How long is it wait? An hour now. Yeah, it's important to say. It's good. We're good. How many have you got? 12, 14, 15, 11. Okay. I'm going to add those 5 names on there. Do you want to? Thanks, Catherine. Rosie's just given you one. You're really being very kind. Thanks for that.
And then I'm interested in doing the model tuning workshop. Will I go online and begin or
Which one?
the model tuning one? Here?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. And you take my email or will I go online?
Well, if you send me an email, I'll reply with these prompts.
Oh, yeah. Perfect. Yeah.
Send me an email.
Oh, yeah. Will it be tomorrow? I think the concept is interesting. I think so. I just speed reading.
That'll be worth it. So where we all?
There we go.
How we getting on? Good humble conversation around. So we're going to start off. With the open mic here now. We have some entrants from the online contingent. Now we have a good few names down here on the list as well, in the room. And just before we begin the open mic, Joe's sister here, Mary, would like to say a few words. So can we give her a round of applause?
Just to say hello to everybody. I like to be, I'm a religious sister, Bernadette, but I prefer to be known as Mary, Joseph's sister. And I just want to say that Bridget is here, Elizabeth, the 3 girls, and Emmanuel, our brother, and also John, Elizabeth's husband. And on behalf of all of us, we want to say how deeply honored we are, because all of our family, music and poetry is in our very souls. our parents had it. And we're all literary, really. And I thought that beautiful expression at the end of Emmanuel's reading, that no gate can be opened. The gate of love can be only opened from the inside. Yeah. So, but there's a funny thing I'll just tell you about Joseph. When Bridget was looking after him, and all of us were there with Joseph, Joseph said to me at one of the nights I was up with him, he said, before I entered, I was the eldest of 10, so I decided to bring them all to the Sound of Music. And when I entered, I told them, to be honest with you, I have no time for institutions or the traditional church. I go to like Joseph, the God of the universe. And I told whoever was there, I said, well, sorry, I won't be entering them because I promised the family I'd bring them to the Sound of Music. So I did bring them. But Joseph said to me during the night that night, he said, Mary, do you know, he says, for a long time afterwards, I thought you were Maria in the Sound of Music, and they were all your nuns. He thought he was getting a preview. Anyway, there's certainly love in this room tonight, and I feel honoured to be part of the family I am part of. And I just humbly say thank you to everybody. It's inspiring to see such love of poetry, but far deeper than love of poetry is love of humanity. I run a music and art centre, but I tell them, sorry, I say it's people first and the music second. Yeah, God bless everybody. Thanks a million. I'm Bridget, and I'm quite overwhelmed at the love and privileged to be here. But I just want to say that there are no words that describe really Joseph. In his latter moments and during the night, Joseph could listen to music and be in ecstasy, listening to the words and the notes. He listened to the bird song, and then all of a sudden he danced in the bed, and we danced at the end of the bed. He said he travelled, but not enough. As you know, he said most of his travel was in his imagination. And he said when he'd eat pineapple, he'd feel that he was in the Bahamas. So the kind of person Joseph was, being the youngest, was a lovely, gentle person, full of soul, full of honesty. And as you know, he said it as it was. And during the latter stages, when he couldn't eat much, he might say, will you go into the kitchen? I want a half slice of brown toast. I want the butter melted in the oven. I want a teaspoon of coffee with a half spoon of sugar. So he was very precise, but being precise, you got his honesty. In the end, you'll be glad to know that Joseph came to terms with leaving this world. He lived a very happy life. And in the end, he said he was okay to go. He knew we'd be sad, but he said, into your hands I commit your spirit. That the chaplain said that to me in the hospice. So just to know, he was deeply spiritual. And as we were clearing the house, we found numerous little holy pictures and Bible quotes, but they were all purposeful and meaningful and poetic. So I just want to say to all Joseph's friends, all of you, that we knew Joseph he loved Cork, he loved Blarney, and we can see now this was really his other home. And so we're very deeply grateful you invited us. It's wonderful that you celebrate his life, because sometimes people can be forgotten. But it's been difficult for us all. So I'm very grateful for tonight, because in all the clearing and cleaning and doing the work, tonight gave me a chance to partly grieve, because I haven't done it yet. So thank you. done a funny note. And he went into the Mercy Hospital. He came out, he was in for 5 days, and I think he walked out at that stage because none of us could visit him with the COVID. And he said, "Do you know someone?" He said, "The greatest mercy there was that I got out alive," he said. The other thing he said was he got a clot in one of his legs, so he had to have a crutch. But he said, "Mary, would you believe this? I went in on 2 feet and I came out on a crutch." So, good night, everybody. And
you so much. Sabrina Margaret. Thank you for your lovely words there. And to start off, the open mic, we'll invite Joe's brother Emmanuel up to sing a song.
I don't have I'll have to put this near to the mic to see if you can pick up the sound. As you know, Joe always liked to sing and play piano. Sometimes he would sing this song about him singing. So I'm down and so I'm out, but so are many others. So I feel I'm trying to hide my head neath these covers. Life is like the seasons. After winter comes the spring. So I'll keep the smile a while and see what tomorrow brings. I've been told and I believe that life is meant for living. And even when my chips are low, there's still some left for giving. I've been many places. I'm sorry. I'll skip a bit. So I think I'll stay a while and see if some dreams come true. There isn't much that I have learned through all my foolish years, except that life keeps running in cycles. First there's laughter, then those tears. But I'll keep my head up high, although I'm kind of tired. My gal just up and left last week. On Friday, I got fired. You know, it's almost funny, but things can't get worse than now. So I'll keep on trying to sing, but please just don't ask me now. Thank you.
It's not about and next up to Michael Stanley Knott, please. in his cool purple coat.
Okay, it's been a great night. I was saying to Joe's family, I got to know Joe better tonight than I did in the 8 or 9 years that I've actually known him. Yeah, but it's been a great night. It's great that we can do these things with people. I'm going to read something. When I met Joe here first, we used to chat outside and he used to break out his states. And most of what's going on up there now is prose. Most of what's going on up there now is prose. This isn't quite poetry. I don't think it is anyway. And for those of you who are from the top, you might need a translation. Kieran will do the translation later on. Because this is written in Cartographer, based on a true story. It's actually a true story. Coming out to me, friends. Coming out to me, boys. I was up the north side last night listening to this fiend about a job. He lives in Churchfield, by. Not a stone thrown out from Knocker, the heart of the north side. A place where no matter what, a spade is a spade, and they tell you how it is straight to your face. So you can imagine my shock when his old doll opens the door and says, "Take your shoes off before you come in, Finn." "I will, yes," says I, convinced she's ball hopping. But then she goes, "Yeah, boy, take them off." And I'm pointing at me shoes and I'm going, "Chillax, be ordered on your pair of rubber dollies, and we're all right." But then she lamps me straight in the eye and says, "I'm deadly serious, boy. Take them off, or you don't come in." 'Twas then me mate appeared behind her. I was lamping him, and he was sconcing me, and I could tell he was totally marked, just wanted the world to end marked, like. But then he shrugged his shoulders as if to say, "What can I do, boy? The Bjorn is mental." So, and this is my point, I had to take off me rubber dollies to walk into a gaff in Churchfield. In Churchfield, like, I mean, Jesus, Mary, and Holy Joe Mac from the Dixies, what is going on, boy? I had to take off me rubber dollies to get into a gaff in Churchfield. Back in the day, they didn't even have shoes up there, boy, or doors for that matter, not to mention carpets. And now there's this Bjorn asking me, "No, stall the ball," insisting that I take off my rubber dollies before I can cross the threshold, as if her gaff is some kind of temple. That's the word I'm looking for. She thinks her gaff is a temple, boy, and she's living in Churchfield on the north side of Cork. I'm in the name of Jesus, Mary, and Holy Joe Mac from the Dixies. What is happening to our city, boy? I mean, if my one said that to me, I'd be taken off, full stop, like, and there'd be no coming back either, boy, no coming back. And there's me, buddy, a pure decent the berries of a Northside champion, shamed by a space for Bjorn into taking his shoes off so he can get into his own gaff. As if he's some sort of Scobie. No, that has to be some kind of, I don't know, watch it. Do you know what it is, boy? 'Tis domestic abuse. That's what it is, boy. Pure, unmitigated domestic abuse. So there's only one thing for it, boy. I'm going to have to get onto the council and the social services and Red FM and 96 FM and the Examiner and the Shades too, boy. Because you're one. Nicole is her name, by the way. She's not getting away with that kind of domestic abuse, boy. Not on my watch. Not on my watch, boy. Later, fiends. Later, Bjorns. Later.
God, thank you. There'll be no translation. But it's yeah. We don't really ruin it. Fiddler's Grand, if you'd like to come up and say home, you'd be more than welcome.
Just want to say very quickly, it's an honor to be here with ECO and be with Joseph's family, and meeting a side to him that I'm happy to meet. It's an honor. One of my vivid memories of Joseph was that myself and Benjamin Burns, there he is, were listening very closely to Joseph's stories, and we realized a regular character that was coming up a mother-in-law. And Benjamin Burns, Ben, had the courage to go up to him asking Maureen's, oh sorry, Maines, sorry, Arthur Maines, like, who's this mother-in-law? Is she, do you actually have a mother-in-law? No, but she's a great character, like, you know, it's the mother-in-law. That's just the mischievous, beautiful nature of Joseph. He was always very supportive, and I was writing away in empty classroom as I do, and I was kind of thinking, like, I was writing about a Shanachie. Shanachie is like an Irish traditional storyteller. Joseph was some ways a beautiful Shanachie in his own way. So here we go. There's no batteries, recharger, to replace the Shanachie. His hands lit in background, makes the fire dance like demons upon the dance floor of turf. We, a silhouetted audience of story listeners, watch as he whips out a harmonica and plays the foggy tune. Then, with tools of imagination mixed with mouth and truth, sends us riding through the scape of time. The darkness of the cottage becomes an open sky, meeting with a seamless sea, an abstract fairy road, the leaping, vanishing hare, a lost bow fox watches in the thicket. The Shanachie's eyes, wide as stars, the hands move with the mountains, a fungal face. I saw the smoke billow from it. Laughter was easy, a collective warmth. And if we allowed ourselves, we would cry. Yet at the time, my phone was dead. I was cut off. It was just me, the fire, the dark. The story was in my head.
Nice one, Fred. Cheers. So we're gonna go to our online contingent now, and we'll have Matt Mooney to say a poem.
The title of the poem is Alive by the Lee. Written some years ago. A tall man bends low while there is time to pick up a lost coin lying in the bus lane before the evening rush. Students heading home, hungry for their dinner, high up in rented rooms across the shaky bridge, up there in Sunday's Well. We walked by the Lee, a looking glass for trees. First kisses on a bench as wild ducks pair away. Sunset on the western road, now an avenue of gold. Blackbirds begin to sing around the pink clinic, place of human healing. On a building site next door, a dumper driver on overtime, working till the last light of day, dumps another load of rubble on a heap of stone and clay. In the new hotel, the Kingsley, champagne in slender glasses, popping corks, loud laughter, and the night falling in the city. the sweet music of a harp scintillating under chandeliers. Gramila Mahagweb.
Good. Well, nice one. I'm sure while we're there, we'll have Sue Blue as well. Sue, if you're there.
I'm absolutely here. Nice one, yeah. Thanks very much. To be honest, I know Joe for a very long time with O'Vale, but I never knew him very deeply. Kind of similar to Rosie before she really got to know him. But I was around long enough to notice his humor and his wit. So I have a poem here that I would like to contribute for all of us tonight. It's called Death of a Loved One. The house is wrapped up in clouds, heavy with tears like our hearts. We're sitting inside in silence, our grieving envelops our souls. We've come together in sadness to share the pain of your loss. You're missing within our circle. We cry and remember your love. Your stories and humor are missing. You shared your warmth with your friends. Your performance, elaborate and classy. Your laughter has come now to end. So still, your body is empty. Your soothing voice is gone. Your eyes have closed forever. Your breathing is all done. We're shaken with grief as we stand in mourning and disbelief. And even though hard to face, you're leaving this vast empty space. The gap is sore like a wound. The void you leave just echoes with emptiness, burning and cold. And we hug each other for hold. We know that your heart's been loving. We know that your soul is light. And as we are sharing our tears, we know you will be all right. You were taken away by the angels. A feather was left on the sill to rejoin the ocean of love. You'll be back with the birds, if you will. And although our grief is cutting like a double-sided knife, we know that your wish for your loved ones is to love and enjoy our life. So we remember your stories, your laughter that fills us with light, while holding on to each other and sharing the love you inspired. Thanks.
Thanks a lot, Sue. And we're going to have Patricia Walsh next, please.
Thank you. It's a privilege not to have known so watching a meltdown. If sound died, our heart is full of light. After removed from dissociation from the beloved. Stable that coffee sings in the miniature box. Anxiety from separation so cute as required. Irregular lighting not mattering in this crash. Sitting alone in classrooms above it all. Appropriate poison where one is engendered. Never left alone, suffering for artifice. Constant swelling of attention like the radio. Best to teach his voice you in the wood here. Excavating flowers to someone else's liking. The sea cool is all I have now to savor. Crying under dark, asking for it all. Local history bedevils the situation well. Throwing obligations into the fire at will. Science trace of vanity comes corner to rest. I can never exit this. crying to brass tacks. Quizzical redemption really deals with glory. Readily stop swapping pally points for a show of affection. Remaining quiet in the future of Paramount Act. Not enough of vodka, enough of catcalls. Kurt's greatest hits have bridge not far enough. Returning to the cold, probably a worse option. Magnificently turning over despair indeed. Thank you.
Stan just SMS'd me this late announcement that he forgot to say while he was on the mic because he was so in character. But he would like to share with you all that he is launching a Christmas single. Next Sunday, the 14th of November, here in the Hayloft. The track is a reworking of a well-known Cork tune. And the event is ticketed, and tickets are available on Eventbrite, and it's a 6:45 start. On stand.
This Sunday or next Sunday?
The 14th.
Sunday coming.
Sunday coming, right? Nice. Number one for Christmas.
And it's here.
Number one for Christmas. Hey, yeah, for sure. Nice to stand. And we'll have Lauren up next.
Thank you. Now, I didn't know Joe like so many people here tonight, but I'm honored to be here tonight and learn so much about him and hear so much of his work. And if you're listening, Joe, then I would like to honor you tonight and your sense of mischief with this piece. Okay, so recently my poetry and I were having an identity crisis, so together we wrote this piece. Rome wasn't built on a cliche. My poetry fell out of the wrong side of the bed and kept falling into Nietzsche's abyss. There's only silence now. I find I miss the screams. My poetry goes around and comes around like a deranged carousel at high speed. Just looking at it makes me nauseous. My poetry calls the kettle black. The kettle calls my poetry racist and says it needs to deal with its internalized misogyny. My poetry has a face only a mother can love, but I don't. My poetry plays its cards right and plays them left, up, down, diagonal, and then asks me if I know how to play 52 card pickup. You can't judge my poetry by its cover, because to have a cover, it needs to be published, and to be published, it needs to be less shit. My poetry is a few fries short of a Happy Meal. I tried to return it, but the staff at McDonald's said they only sell disappointment now. My poetry is a riddle wrapped up in an enigma, dusted with confusion and deep fried in despair, then served with a side of failure. My poetry beats a dead horse and then gets arrested for defiling a corpse. I paid the bail the first time, now it rots in jail. Thank you.
La Brochino. No, next please.
Thanks so much for this evening. It was wonderful to learn so much about Joe. Incidentally, I was in the Virgin Slate writing group for a while, and he was one of the facilitators. So I was lucky enough to have a few weeks of critique by Joe. So this next one, I also wanted to say thanks for the readings tonight, guys. I really enjoyed it. So this piece is called The Cartographer.
It's a recurring dream. The cartographer. I live between the folds of a map, a faded place name, the surface area of nowhere. Within my horizontal suburbia, I am lost. I cannot navigate the latitudes of sleep. He draws a map for me. I feel the ink from his lifeline seep. He traces a view of infinity. Standing on the precipice of a cliff, staring out to sea, my Friedrich painting, my wonder is back to me. A stick in his hand, a fallen branch, a gift from a noble fir, perhaps. I imagine it soaring from the heights with the night flight grace of Chagall. Under this shell of me, he will draw the lines, a phonetic system of my inner soundings, my cartographer, who could design every wrinkle of a coastline with one slip of finger-pressed pen. Delicate gradation of ink tint making amends for his departure, unfolding the geometrics of what we once had. He will compose a land that I can live in, more an opening in the clouds to let the demons go.
There's our 5-word challenge winner as well. We go back onto Zoom now and we will have Pam Campbell next if you're there, Pam.
Can y'all hear me okay?
Yep.
Yes. Okay, great. First of all, I want to say I'm sorry for your loss of Joe, but I am truly getting a sense of who he was through your lovely words. So this poem I'm going to read for y'all is called Whisper. Crackle, rustle, red, brown, silky, soft, new life flattens, hugs earthy loam. White spots dull in dusk light. Bobcat oversteps, nears, heartbeat drops, breathing slows. Bobcat claws catch, branch bark, sniffs. Earth fawn shallow breeze. Bobcat pads, limb length, drops and disappears in Spartina grass. Moist nose, cooled by prevailing wind, notes danger departing. Ears erect, gather quietness, swivel like radar dishes. Catches great horned owl stuttering, hoo, 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 hoo. One high in pitch, the other low. Fawn eyes, big bright tapestry, passes light twice. Lashes droop downward with slight curve upward. Nose up, high pitches, meow, meow, meow. Fierce hoof thunder breaks darkness, vibrates ground under white belly. Muscular, red-brown, full-bodied doe stamps and snorts. Draws in fawn scent and soft bleats. Fawn, wobbly leg rises, finds teat, pulls and mews. High-pitched notes like an old screen door, opening and whispering shut on a summer eve while Bobcat waits. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Pam. Nice one. We have Augustine.
You hear me? Good.
We can hear, yeah, we can hear you kind of faintly.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Here we are. Okay. Beautiful evening, everyone. Yeah, grateful to witness all of it. This poem is called Two Birds Not Trapped. Two birds not trapped in a cage, able to turn a new page, another chapter, able to fly away and live other realities. Although they've met and shared some seeds together, ate worms together, might nest together, go places together, in the end, they still have wings. In the end, they are still birds. None of them are broken. Although there's several thoughts and songs unspoken, both of them can fly if they no longer feel safe. Both can fly and search for a new sanctuary or whatever. One may go with the wind, the other may go with the season. Both still have choices, both still have reasons, and they ignore all the voices of those ignorant of what they have lived. They're two birds not trapped in a cage. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Augustina. Michelle Delay next, please.
Thanks to everybody for tonight. It's a short one. What I see from your side. Your eyes on the road, the view from the coast. Your eyes on the match, the heart in the throat. Your eyes on the gecko, the tongue slipping out. Your eyes on the pot, the taste in the mouth. Your eyes on the screen, you're fully immersed. Your eyes on the spinning record. Your eyes on me, your love, your love. Thank you.
We have Charles Clark, goes to the mic next, please.
Yeah. Well, I never realized quite the depths that were lurked behind those really placid demeanor, should be said. I was, however, I realize now, a fellow graduate of UCD, and I, there was a very long time before, prehistoric. Earth for terrace rather than the farm waste, the waste of the Skilorgan Road, that kind of thing. However, I'm stuck. I wasn't stuck at all. I have action in writing, but this is an interesting thing. And I was stuck for a title at one point, but it's actually about picturesque views in Kanturk, where I more or less grew up, or part of it anyway, took place. And I used to go out that to friends near the Brogean Mills. The Brogean Mills, no longer milling at that point. But there you are. The bachelor's cottage, the mill yard with guinea fowls and turkeys, the mill house sloping to the front door, over the stream and up to the gate lodge, below feathery arching branches, as seen from Botto, a glimpse of a house with a haw-haw, the British Cleveland cottages, brick and roses, and a gate symbolizing wealth. We have sown that, friend said, a field, gaunt uplands, large and desolate as a battlefield.
Charles. Seamus Harrington next, please.
to get on. This is program for TDFC, an international game versus the Geo Warsaw and Turner's Cross, and they took this piece. This is not a drill. This is not a drill. Scramble nets empty and ready for the next shot fired in anger. 2 hours to go. 6 months of duty. Second best was never our aim. A drizzle. Every drop, every micron exposed under the arc lights. The start of a green wave. It heaves and weaves across our field of vision, hovering and swelling and surging, roaring down our flanks again and again like a great ocean's fetch. Look out, one sniping, glass wiping, others text typing, flag hyping, a genie, grey as a battleship, fat as a school of bull seals, twirling over, rail swirling and curling past ensign and stanchion, in his guts an orange flare signals, intense as the tang of gunpowder. We wait, nerves taut as a guy wire. Shortly our fate will be sealed by whistle and semaphore. That tannoy is frantically squawking, a roll lost in the clutter and clatter of a chopper in cloud overhead. A foghorn's blare cut off in mid-note, the cacophony signals the skipper bursting from the war games room, mascot and crew in close formation. He hits the decks running, a dozen drums drowned by 13,000 hands. Clap, clap, the rebel army. Clap, 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 the rebel army. Clap, clap, the rebel army. The shed explodes.
Now we're going to go back online there. Ben Burns. Ben Burns is there. We'll,
Hey,
we'll
yeah,
go-
I'm here. When I talked to Joe, like I've talked to Joe about birdsong and music, and he really loved those things. But whenever I talked to Joe, he'd mention me being from Sligo, and he'd mention Yeats, and I think he really loved Sligo and Yeats, as well as obviously being very passionate about music and birdsong. But I thought I'd read a Yeats poem for the open mic. So I'll read The Fiddler of Dooney. When I play on my fiddle in Dooney, folk dance like a wave of the sea. My cousin is priest in Kilvarnet, my brother in Maharabui. I passed my brother and cousin. They read in their books of prayer. I read in my book of songs I bought at the Sligo Fair. When we come at the end of time to Peter sitting in state, he will smile on the 3 old spirits, but call me first through the gate. For the good are always the merry, saved by an evil chance. And the merry love the fiddle, and the merry love to dance. And when the folk there spy me, they will all come up to me, with here is the Fiddler of Dooney, and dance like a wave of the sea.
Thanks a lot, Ben. Nice one. And we have Vishti up next, please.
After weeks of no sleep, I realized I hadn't been awake in years, condemning myself to waiting and fear. My heavy worth placed on the shoulders of another, smothering growth yet playing the dope, for it was easier to feel aware than be aware. And I would stare down anyone who acknowledged this in me as deluded, anyone who clued that I might have an unconscious issue, one that highlights a misuse of my time or a misuse of my life. For I was living a life that had already passed and cast its reflections onto my present, and I became hesitant to trust because my righteous experience dictated that only my reality be reflected. And instead of acknowledging that pattern, that smattering of explosions caused by resentment and the abandonment of self, I placed the blame on the shoulders of another when they fell from their perched perfection that they never aspired to reach. And I leached onto these beliefs so intensely that the immensity clouded my vision and I couldn't engage in the vision of myself. And in times of contentment, I fixated on a future, using it as a suture to seal something as solid, what we'll have, where we'll go, what I'll know replaced where I am, what I have, and what I understand. And I reprimanded myself for never feeling settled in my skin without ever letting truth out. And you know, I think people get tired of this shit because they see it and you don't. They say it and you won't hear. And they feel it and you continue to live in fear of ever seeing beyond yourself. So finally, I'm saying fuck it. I want to see stars for me. I want to read for me. I want to write for me. I want to walk for me, talk for me, cook for me, clean for me, work for me, and live for me. So finally, I'm confronting this need and this ego and this lifelong fallacy. And I'm becoming someone in the know. I'm becoming someone in the now.
Just to say, if anybody else online who would like to read, this is the time to sign up. Oh, maybe not. So yeah, to close the open mic this evening, we give a very warm welcome to Bilal, please.
Carol. Thanks for tonight anyway. It's been a special, very special night. And all the stories of Joe as well, it's been lovely to be a part of it. Here's a short poem. I take a deep breath and I listen to my mind and its confliction. All my thoughts are running wild and my happiness is slides. Sorry. Lost it. I take a deep breath and I listen to my mind and its confliction. All my thoughts are running wild and my happiness subsides. Like soft mud between the trees, whose roots as light as leaves, gaining weight as it descends. My solution is to run. Run before it buries you, run to catch yourself. Run until the earth beneath your feet begins to melt. Run until the root beneath the trees begin to release. Run until your feet begins to cry for sympathy. Run until you think that you're the wind to split the eaves. Run until you gasp for breath and collapse beneath the weight. Run until your heart constricts and forces you to taste the bitterness of self-delusion so acidic on your tongue. Run until you realize that running is all you've done.
You're on?
Oh.
Peace? Are you gonna read?
Max. You go for it. Max is going to take one.
No, it's just that, yes.
Oh, no.
No, just one little small thing. I suppose he spent a lot of time really thinking and talking about that story about Maeve, and he sent the story around to a good few of us. So I do hope it gets published and that have thought for his legacy and put a lot of thought into how he wanted the first chapter illustrated. And I passed on that to the sisters, you know, what the work I done. It was gas. I'd say, God, Joe, is this a commission? And he'd say, no, you just do the pictures, and if you like it, you get something. So we were always meeting, and nothing, please, like, he really was particular about it. These are very rough images. There was a series of them we did of the very errant poor school teacher, and she trying to go in the school gate, and the letter falling off the gate, and the kids having to push the car. So it was just something that mattered. And I think I did an awful lot of sketches of Joe over the years, but he didn't approve of any of them. We did want one for the flyleaf, so this one was in charcoal in the picture. So I suppose because he wanted it, I said I might just flick it right there. And I suppose Joe spent a lot of time correcting our work and we sharing his. He liked kind of short, pithy things, but he did like plastic ones, if I could find one there. He liked it when I do something about art, so I did a series of ones about models, and poor old models, a nice sketching always pulled my heart. we stuck there for hours. So I had a series of model poems, but this one he liked anyway. It's called Still. It was just for David, where he stuck there all day, and his name was David. He's at it all day Sunday again. He does not flinch when eyes bore through, measuring each contour. Keeps the pose, though quadriceps ripple, fasciculations, fatigued he endures. His name is David. For this hour, lost to his private, musing world, pairs of searching probes of telescope. Greek chorus of 20, 10, 5, now change. Rodin too had neither form, marble carved and noble art, sculpt nature's bulk. Some permit to dissect, to saw and render. Donors are in residence, they defer to sing. He says, it will do for you to try to capture me and see behind my blank-eyed soul. So we gather beneath the Juliet balcony on the North Man in Cork at night, dazzled in the studio lights, and still. Thanks.
So thanks, and just drawings are beautiful as well. Yeah, love to have a look through them. Yeah, well then everyone, thank you so much for your input into the evening. And thank you to Joe, like unbelievable to have his presence here with us today, and like really to feed him here, and yeah, like a mentor to many of us, a real inspiration to all of us. And some of us who hadn't really met much of him, I'm sure know much more about him now, and like it's amazing that a group of people can give a sense of somebody through their work and through their love for that person and their passion for that person, and a sign testament to the mark that he left on all of us, and all that he did for us and for this room, and like Paul Casey for all of us here. And just a big thank you to Joe and to his family for being here today. I don't know, I suppose Mainz is probably back on the cards, isn't it? I'd say, big, can we get a big round of applause for our tech wizard there? I thought he was going to throw a laptop at me a while ago. Yeah, big fair play to Paul and fair play to everybody online. Nice one. Sweet. Big ups all. We're going to probably go to Mainz for a pint. Thank you to the Long Valley for having us. Come back next month. Say to Paul if you want to come back, and yeah, look after each other and yourselves, and be well. Take care.
Thank you.
Can you do the names for next month now?
I have your name already on there.
Oh, good. Thanks.